Welcome back to the channel. Today we're counting down the 14 worst Harley Davidson motorcycles for senior riders. Number 14. Harley Davidson Street Bob, 2016 model. The Harley Davidson Street Bob has long been a favorite for its simplicity and charm, but what happens when an iconic model lets riders down? The 2016 Model Street Bob promised the classic Harley Davidson experience, but instead let riders down and stranded on the side of the road. This model was riddled with electrical issues, including failing wiring harnesses and frequent battery problems. Riders also complained about the excessive heat generated by the twin-cam 103 engine, which made city riding unbearable, especially in warmer climates. On top of that, the stock suspension struggled to handle uneven roads, resulting in a rough and uncomfortable ride. For senior riders, these flaws were particularly frustrating. Comfort and reliability are essential for longer rides, and the 2016 Street Bob failed to deliver on both fronts. This was especially disappointing for riders who had come to trust the Street Bob name for its simplicity and dependability. However, it wasn't all bad news. Some riders appreciated the Street Bob's classic styling and manageable size, which made it a good choice for short city trips. But these small positives couldn't outweigh the frustration caused by its frequent breakdowns and discomfort. If you thought the Street Bob's electrical issues were frustrating, the next bike promised versatility but delivered disappointment. Number 13. Harley Davidson FXDS Convertible. The Harley Davidson FXDS Convertible aimed to offer the best of both worlds, blending cruiser style with touring functionality. Instead, it left riders stuck in an awkward middle ground that satisfied no one. Designed with detachable saddlebags and a windshield, the FXDS promised flexibility, but poor execution turned these features into liabilities. The windshield caused excessive wind buffeting, making long rides uncomfortable, while the saddlebags felt flimsy and insecure. Riders also faced common mechanical problems, including oil leaks, electrical failures, and uncomfortable vibrations at highway speeds. For senior riders, these issues made the FXDS a poor choice. Its touring features lacked the refinement needed for long-distance comfort, and its cruiser aspects were hindered by clunky mechanics. This was especially disappointing for riders who wanted a bike that could handle both city streets and long road trips with ease. Some riders did appreciate the FXDS for its detachable components, which made it easy to switch between styles. But this small convenience wasn't enough to overcome the bike's fundamental flaws. The FXDS was a hybrid that missed the mark, but the next bike's attempt at sporty agility left everyone scratching their heads. Number 12. Harley Davidson XLS Roadster. Harley Davidson's attempt to inject sportiness into their lineup with the XLS Roadster sounded exciting, but the result was a bike that couldn't live up to its expectations. It left both performance enthusiasts and Harley fans disappointed. The Ironhead engine provided decent power, but it was prone to overheating and frequent oil leaks, leaving riders frustrated. The ergonomics were another major flaw, with a cramped seating position and awkwardly placed handlebars that made even short rides uncomfortable. The stiff suspension rendered the XLS unsuitable for bumpy roads or extended use, further alienating riders who had hoped for a smoother experience. For senior riders, the XLS Roadster was a frustrating experience. Its poor comfort and handling made it unsuitable for long rides or daily use, particularly for those seeking a dependable and enjoyable ride. However, the Roadster's unique styling did appeal to some riders, with its sporty look standing out in Harley's lineup. Unfortunately, this wasn't enough to overcome its many mechanical and design issues. The Roadster's shortcomings were disappointing, but the next bike's awkward design and poor handling made it an outright nightmare for touring enthusiasts. Number 11. Harley Davidson FXRT Sport Glide. The Harley Davidson FXRT Sport Glide attempted to blend the agility of a cruiser with the comfort of a touring bike. Unfortunately, it became a textbook example of how design flaws can overshadow even the best intentions. One of the most glaring issues was the fairing design. Riders joked it looked like a spaceship, but the real problem was its impact on handling. In crosswinds, the fairing made the bike unstable, undermining its appeal as a touring machine. The shovelhead engine compounded the problems with frequent oil leaks and overheating, while the stiff suspension made longer rides uncomfortable. Senior riders were especially disappointed with the FXRT. A touring bike should provide stability and comfort, but this model fell short on both counts. For those who expected a versatile, reliable ride, the FXRT's flaws were a deal breaker. Despite these issues, the FXRT did have its fans. Some riders appreciated its innovative approach to blending styles, even if the execution left much to be desired. Unfortunately, the bike's positive attributes couldn't outweigh its glaring flaws. The FXRT's design issues were frustrating, but the next bike's lack of power and quality turned it into a complete misfire. Number 10. Harley Davidson Z90. When Harley Davidson teamed up with Ermachi to create the Z90, the goal was to deliver an entry-level motorcycle that could appeal to younger riders. Instead, it became a cautionary tale about cutting corners. The 90cc two-stroke engine was severely underpowered, often struggling to maintain speed even on flat terrain. Riders frequently reported stalling issues, clogged carburetors, and misfiring spark plugs. Maintenance became a recurring nightmare, as even minor issues required constant tinkering to keep the bike running. Adding to its mechanical problems was the Z90's uninspired boxy design. Its lack of chrome or signature Harley-Davidson aesthetics made it look cheap and out of place in Harley's otherwise iconic lineup. It was a bike that failed to impress visually and mechanically. For senior riders, the Z90 was an impractical choice. Its weak engine and frequent breakdowns made it unreliable for even short rides, let alone daily use. It lacked the power and dependability riders expect from a Harley, leaving little reason to recommend it. Some owners did appreciate the Z90's lightweight frame, which made it easier to handle than larger Harleys. But this small positive wasn't enough to redeem its many flaws. The Z90 lacked power, but the next bike tried to make up for it with bold styling, and ended up alienating both Harley fans and newcomers alike. Number 9. Harley Davidson CVO Breakout. The Harley Davidson CVO Breakout aimed to be a premium, custom-inspired cruiser, but its impractical design and sky-high price left riders questioning its value. At the center of its issues was the massive 240mm rear tire, which was visually striking but made handling sluggish and unpredictable, especially during cornering. The stretched-out riding position added to the discomfort, causing back pain for many riders after just a few hours. On top of this, the twin-cam 110 engine ran excessively hot, especially in traffic, making the bike uncomfortable to ride in urban settings. For senior riders, the CVO Breakout was an expensive disappointment. Its difficult handling and uncomfortable ergonomics made it unsuitable for long rides, while its high maintenance costs and rapid depreciation added to the frustration. Despite its flaws, some riders were drawn to the CVO's striking design and exclusivity, which made it a conversation piece. However, even these features couldn't save it from being labeled a failure by many in the Harley community. The CVO Breakout left riders burned, literally and figuratively. But the next bike's attempt at off-road adventure turned into a complete disaster. Number 8. Harley Davidson SX 250. Harley Davidson's foray into the off-road market with the SX 250 was an ambitious move, but the execution left riders stuck in the mud, literally. The 250cc two-stroke engine lacked the power and reliability needed for off-road riding. Riders reported frequent carburetor flooding, poor throttle response, and difficulty maintaining speed on trails. The suspension system was equally underwhelming, failing to absorb shocks from bumpy terrain, which made the bike uncomfortable and impractical for its intended purpose. The SX 250 also suffered from a lack of refinement in its design. While competitors in the off-road segment embraced rugged aesthetics, the SX 250's bland appearance failed to inspire confidence or excitement. For senior riders, these issues made the SX 250 a non-starter. Its inconsistent performance and uncomfortable ride were the exact opposite of what off-road enthusiasts expect, leaving little reason to recommend it. Some owners did appreciate the SX 250's lightweight build, which made it easier to maneuver in certain conditions. However, this small advantage wasn't enough to overshadow its glaring flaws. The SX250 stumbled on dirt trails, but the next bike's infamous wobble made it a danger on highways. Number 7. Harley Davidson Early Dyna Glide Series. The early Dyna Glide series was supposed to be the perfect blend of cruiser versatility and touring stability, but instead it became infamous for one of Harley's most dangerous engineering flaws: the dreaded death wobble. The death wobble, a sudden and uncontrollable oscillation of the front end, plagued these bikes at highway speeds. Riders reported terrifying experiences where the bike felt as though it was falling apart under them. The cause was traced to a poorly designed frame that couldn't handle the torque produced by the Evolution engine. In addition to the wobble, the Dyna Glide suffered from common mechanical problems like oil leaks, overheating, and failing electrical components. Riders frequently found themselves stranded dealing with issues that required costly repairs. For senior riders, the Dyna Glide's instability and mechanical unreliability made it a poor choice. Safety and dependability are essential, and this model offered neither. Despite these problems, some riders admired the Dyna Glide's customizability, which allowed for modifications to address some of its flaws. However, even this couldn't save it from its tarnished reputation. The Dyna Glide's wobble was terrifying, but the next bike's branding and design missteps made it one of Harley Davidson's most controversial failures. Number 6. Harley Davidson Livewire. The Harley Davidson Livewire was supposed to represent the brand's future, a bold leap into the electric motorcycle market. But instead of charging forward, it left riders stalled in frustration. The Livewire boasted impressive performance, with a 0 to 60 time of just 3 seconds, but it came with significant trade-offs. The 95-mile highway range was woefully inadequate for long-distance riders, creating range anxiety even on moderate trips. Compounding this issue were charging problems, as early models faced software glitches that sometimes prevented the bike from recharging at all. Then there was the price, nearly $30,000, putting it out of reach for most of its intended audience, urban riders and younger customers. Traditional Harley fans were also alienated, as the Livewire lacked the brand's iconic sound and visceral riding experience. For senior riders, the Livewire offered little value. Its short range, high cost, and departure from Harley's classic style made it an impractical and unappealing choice for those who prioritize reliability and comfort. Some riders appreciated its cutting-edge technology and environmental focus, but these positives weren't enough to offset the Livewire's fundamental shortcomings. The Livewire was a bold move in the wrong direction, but the next bike's controversial branding made it one of Harley Davidson's most infamous mistakes. Number 5. Harley Davidson Confederate Edition. In 1977, Harley Davidson released the Confederate Edition, a limited-run motorcycle that's remembered more for its controversial branding than anything else. The bike featured a Confederate flag emblem on the tank, a decision that sparked criticism even during its release and has aged even worse over time. Mechanically, the Confederate Edition was a stock Electra Glide, powered by the shovelhead engine, which was notorious for oil leaks, overheating, and frequent mechanical failures. Riders complained about its poor performance and the lack of any meaningful upgrades to justify its special edition status. For senior riders, the Confederate Edition was a non-starter. Its poor reliability, combined with its offensive branding, made it an unappealing option, even for those seeking a collector's item. Despite its flaws, the Confederate Edition holds a peculiar place in Harley history, serving as a cautionary tale about the intersection of branding and performance. The Confederate Edition was doomed from the start, but the next bike took design risks that alienated even the most loyal Harley fans. Number 4. Harley Davidson Electra Glide Classic, 1980 model. The Harley Davidson Electra Glide Classic is an iconic name in touring motorcycles, but the 1980 model was a low point in the line's storied history. Powered by the shovelhead engine, the Electra Glide Classic suffered from persistent oil leaks, overheating, and electrical failures. Riders frequently faced weak alternators and failing starters, leaving them stranded on the road. The bike's weight distribution was another major issue, making it challenging to handle at low speeds and especially difficult for senior riders who value stability and ease of use. For senior riders, the 1980 Electra Glide Classic was particularly disappointing. A touring bike should excel in comfort and reliability, but this model failed on both fronts, making long-distance trips more of a headache than a pleasure. Despite these issues, the Electra Glide Classic's spacious seating and iconic look did appeal to some riders, though these positives couldn't make up for its frequent breakdowns. The Electra Glide Classic had a storied name but disappointing execution, and the next bike's awkward design made it the butt of countless jokes. Number 3. Harley Davidson XLCR Cafe Racer. The Harley Davidson XLCR Cafe Racer was Willie G. Davidson's bold attempt to break into the cafe racer trend of the 1970s. Unfortunately, it ended up as an awkward mix of styles that failed to find its audience. The blacked-out design was a significant departure from Harley's classic aesthetic, and while some appreciated its uniqueness, many riders felt it looked out of place. The Ironhead V twin engine, producing 61 horsepower, was underwhelming compared to the speed and agility of European cafe racers. The bike's weight and bulky handling further hindered its ability to compete in this category. For senior riders, the XLCR's cramped seating position and lackluster performance were deal breakers. It failed to deliver the comfort or power expected from a Harley, leaving it stranded between trends and unable to meet expectations. Despite its flaws, the XLCR has gained a small cult, following over the years as a quirky piece of Harley history, though it remains one of the brand's most divisive models. The XLCR Cafe Racer was a bold but failed experiment, but the next bike's flaws made it Harley Davidson's most infamous failure of all. Number 2. Harley Davidson Trike Glide Ultra Classic. The Harley Davidson Trike Glide Ultra Classic aimed to provide stability and comfort with its three-wheel design, but it ended up as a frustrating and awkward ride for many. Despite its trike configuration, the Trike Glide suffered from handling issues, feeling top-heavy and unsteady, especially in corners. Riders described it as fighting gravity rather than enjoying smooth turns. The rear suspension was another weak point, struggling to manage the bike's substantial weight, which resulted in a bumpy and uncomfortable ride on less than perfect roads. The twin-cam engine added to the bike's woes, overheating during slow-speed touring, exactly what the bike was designed for. The engine's excessive heat made long trips uncomfortable, particularly in warm climates. Maneuvering the Trike Glide in tight spaces, such as parking lots or narrow roads, was also a chore, making it feel more cumbersome than convenient. For senior riders, the Trike Glide was especially disappointing. While its spacious seating and storage capacity seemed ideal for long-distance touring, the poor handling and frequent overheating made it impractical and frustrating. Riders who expected a stable, dependable trike were left with a bike that fell short in both design and performance. Some fans appreciated the Trike Glide's classic styling and touring features, but these weren't enough to save its reputation as one of Harley's more frustrating models. The Trike Glide left riders disheartened, but the next bike on our list earns the title of Harley Davidson's most hated motorcycle of all time. Number 1. Harley Davidson Baja 100. At the top of our list is the Harley Davidson Baja 100, a bike that became the poster child for poor engineering and missed potential. This off-road model was supposed to compete with lightweight dirt bikes, but instead became a cautionary tale. The 98cc two-stroke engine was underpowered, often bogging down on inclines or uneven terrain. Riders faced constant stalling issues, and restarting the bike proved to be a frustrating ordeal. The suspension system was equally disappointing, offering minimal shock absorption that left riders feeling every bump and jolt. The Baja 100's design didn't help matters. Its uninspired appearance failed to convey the rugged spirit of off-road riding, leaving many riders feeling it lacked both the functionality and aesthetic appeal expected from a Harley Davidson. Critics famously described it as a dirt bike that didn't like dirt. For senior riders, the Baja 100 was an outright disaster. Its lack of power, frequent mechanical issues, and uncomfortable suspension made it an unreliable and impractical choice. Riders looking for a dependable off-road experience were left with a bike that seemed better suited as a garage decoration than a trailblazer. Despite its infamous reputation, the Baja 100 remains a fascinating relic of Harley's experimental phase. It serves as a stark reminder that even legendary brands can make critical missteps when venturing into unfamiliar territory. The Baja 100 wasn't just a disappointment, it was a complete failure, cementing its place as the most hated Harley Davidson motorcycle in history. Thanks for riding with us. If you enjoyed this, drop a comment, hit subscribe, and give us a like. More Harley Davidson content is on the way. Ride safe and keep the engine going.